Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Adenike Adeyemi. I am the Executive Director for Faith Foundation, and I welcome you all to the fifth Q&A session for our Journeys in Entrepreneurship series. As you all probably know by now, our Journeys in Entrepreneurship is a series developed by Faith Foundation to share entrepreneurial journeys, stories, and experiences through one entrepreneur interviewing another within the same industry. And I am excited to welcome you to our fifth episode in the series. And today's focus is on the creative space. As with our live question and answer sessions, we've already gotten some questions that have been sent ahead by some participants, but we expect to have more questions as the program starts and as the conversation starts. So please, if you're already on the YouTube live chat link, do call other people who can watch this live Q&A with you. Put a comment down, send your questions as we start the conversations, and we look to hearing from you. So once again, you're welcome to our fifth live Q&A for our Journeys in Entrepreneurship episode. And today is extremely special. And we're featuring Gerald Chukwuma and Ronke Adeola, whose live interview, or rather, whose pre-recorded interview earlier premiered today at about 12 o'clock on YouTube, on Facebook, and all major podcast apps. And we're really excited to welcome them here. So just a very brief bio of our two guests today. Gerald Chukwuma is the founder of GDY Fine and Functional Art. He's a contemporary artist who is noted for working with upcycled aluminium, battered wood carvings and installations for signature intricately crafted wood-slate sculptures. His body of work aims to tell Nigerian stories through art, and his work has been featured in solo and group exhibitions at key galleries and museums, both locally and internationally. Gerald, you're very much welcome to the conversation today. Thank you. It's good to see you again. Hi, Gerald, your mic is off.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Good. Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very fine, Adenike. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Where are you calling from? I didn't even ask before now. Are you in Lagos?
Yeah, I'm in Lagos. Yeah, back to Lagos.
Fantastic. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. And our second special guest today is Aderonke Adeola. Aderonke is a writer, producer, and director, and famously known as the director and producer for the documentary Awani. Awani is a historical documentary which explores the intersection between colonialism and gender inequality. And the film has won multiple awards, including the UNESCO Prize at the 2019 Afrika Film Festival. I also have to say at this point, if you don't know already, that both of them are graduates of our Aspiring Entrepreneurs Program at Faith Foundation. So we're very proud of Gerald and Ronke. Ronke, welcome. You're welcome to today's Q&A. I think your mic is off too.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. It's really great to see your faces again. As with previous episodes, whenever I watch the pre-recorded interviews, I remember the conversations we had a couple of months ago when we were doing the recording. And I remember being at your studio, Gerald. That was even the first time that I'd be there. And it's such a beautiful studio, and it's good to see you sitting there again. I'm assuming you're at your studio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. The artworks that I'm seeing behind you are very different from the ones that
exactly. Yeah.
So I will definitely come over again soon. Once we're open for that. So we'll go straight into the questions and answer session. As with previous episodes, we'll have a number of questions that we'll be getting from the live Q&A chat, but we also had some questions that have been sent ahead of the conversation. And I'll start with a particular question. Again, just from remembering my conversations with the two of you before you started your interview. And Gerald, I'd like to start with you. One of the things that I really enjoyed about learning about your work as an artist, first off, was how through your work you're able to shine an aspect or different aspects around areas of history, areas of culture, and some aspect of even just how our society has evolved to date. And one of your works, which I learned about, I think it was at Artex, or so there was some exhibition that you were a couple years ago, and you had some of your works from the Igbo landing, and I'd never heard about that before. And I remember that I had gone with a couple of friends, and two of them were actually from Southeast Nigeria, and they never had heard about that before. So one of the questions we had, asked about to ask you about the role of, what do you think the role of an artist is in education, in history, in culture, in letting us know how we all got here, who we are, and how we've evolved as a society? How would you answer that question in terms of the role of arts and the role of artists in showcasing and bringing better perspective and even knowledge about our history and our culture?
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so you observed really right. I mean, I was also caught unawares when I started to do that research on Igbo landing. And incidentally, I didn't find any document that wrote about that part of our history that is so significant, and even more today. So for me, art is first a visual research document, and so if we didn't see the art that we saw now, maybe our world would be shaped differently, just maybe. So I think, yeah, art, even though art tells stories, is also a data gathering instrument. And so we should not take it for granted while we do art that it's just art. No, it's telling a story, and every time culture affects what you produce. After this era, we are sure that our art could be a bit different. People will depict some different things. And if you see this art in 100 years, you will know that there was a breach in our existence. So I think that art and culture affect each other. Culture shapes and textures the subject of art. Art tells a story about the culture. And of course, a people cannot exist without their culture. And so if, for instance, I didn't do that research a bit further, and shockingly, I only found some of the materials outside Nigeria where that culture really happened. And so if we couldn't record these things, because even at that time, you didn't really have materials to write and we're not educated like we are now, it's only through art you can now recall and try to shape your future with your past, which is always usually the case. So I think for culture and art, even interfuse, one determines what one will always be now and in the future. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ronke, similar question also to you, and the same experience I had with Gerald's piece on the Igbo landing. I remember when I saw the premiere of your documentary at Afrika Festival, I believe. I'd never seen that perspective on the role of women, particularly from a pre-colonial perspective, and there's so many perceptions that changed for me, just even looking at the insights and the questions and even how you narrated sort of like the chronology of things. So you are a filmmaker and you do documentaries. You tell stories, but stories of what has happened, and you show how they've evolved. But you also tell it from the perspective of the historians too, which I really love. What do you, from your perspective, what is the role of the creative? What's the role of the filmmaker or the film documentarian, if there's a word like that, in shaping, in telling us our stories, our history and culture, and more importantly, letting us have the conversations that we would otherwise not have had without that knowledge?
Thank you. And I'm going to sort of echo what Gerald said. Hello, hi Gerald. I haven't had a chance to say hello to you. It's nice to see you again. I think with film and art, is one, I'm going to quote one of my favorite artists. She's a musician, she's late now, but art is to reflect the times. And even though Awani is a historical documentary, it was really inspired by the contemporary gender inequality and what's going on with women in Nigeria, you know, and what led me to do the research is that what did our grandmothers experience? What did their grandmothers experience? And funnily enough, in the documentary, I make reference to the gender equality bill that was shut down in 2015. And right now we have the sexual harassment bill in the Senate. You know, and when we talk about history, it just repeats itself, you know, because it's a different form of the gender equality bill, but this one sort of focuses on sexual harassment, and it's at the third passing. Are they going to pass it finally now? And then they shut down the marital rape bill, which, you know, so it's funny that, you know, I think art should reflect the times, but I also see it as a form of therapy. You know, there's all sorts of art out there. There's, you know, really shocking things, you know, across film, across music, across fine arts and sculpture, and they're really personal things. People, you know, it's been very difficult right now. There's been a rise in mental health problems all across the world. So there's reflecting the times, you know, trying to engage in social issues. You know, the news right now is outrageous, in whichever country you're in, but what's going on in politics, corruption, gender, but then also art in terms of the personal. What are you going through? What is it making you feel? What are your struggles? So those are the two streams that I really see art as, and film, of course, as I'm a filmmaker.
Yes. So I'll continue with you, Ronke. And speaking of the times and how art helps to shape history and what's happening, you know, I mean, we're in a unique time in history. So what have you seen in terms of the role of art or the role of artists? And when I say artists now, I'm speaking very loosely because both of you represent different form of expressions of art in different ways. There are definitely intersections at different points, but how do you think that, what in your own opinion anyway, and from what you've seen, have you seen the evolution of the role of the creative? And I want us to contextualize it to Nigeria in terms of how we're looking at this pandemic and the impact it has had, like you said, from an individual perspective to a national and a global perspective. Is there anything that you're seeing that maybe from the sense of telling stories or from the sense of showcasing perspectives that may not even be obvious to us in general, but creatives and artists and people within your space are sharing stories and telling stories in a way that we would probably not have had that at this time?
Well, unfortunately, my answer to that is this period of time has really put a pause on the creative scene. This is theater, this is music, you know, our favorite musicians, we can't go and see them in concerts. This is film, some films have been suspended. You know, I'm not sure what's happening in the art space, but what is really frightening for me is the lack of creativity. I mean, the one space that's probably thriving, and even though I probably shouldn't say thriving because I'm not sure, is photography, you know, with all the protests that's going on around the world. I think photography is the only, you know, going to COVID health centers, and it's called documentary photography. That's probably the only sort of field where I see a lot of that I'm seeing a lot of work. People, even myself, I've personally been impacted. I was meant to start filming on my next project, but I have to put that on hold. Although slowly in different parts of the world, we see people filming music videos now and doing sort of much smaller scale projects. But there's been a lot of there's a lot less art right now, to be perfectly honest, unless you already filmed something that you're releasing now. You see with like a lot of the bigger films, they keep postponing film release dates, so it's a little disheartening. And of course we're in a state of collective shock. So perhaps there was something that you were going to create, and then all of a sudden there's a shutdown, and there's a loss of jobs and all sorts of things. Maybe you have family members, maybe you've been physically affected by this disease and all the consequences that comes with the period of COVID. But unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of art. I mean, a friend of mine, Wana Udobang, she released an album of poetry, but she'd been working on it for some time. It wasn't unique to COVID, So in my own perspective, and perhaps Gerald has a different perspective, I'm not seeing a lot of art right now because a lot of people are suffering financially, and of course it's across sectors. Although art always suffers the most, it's the least valued, especially in this country. So apart from the documentary journalism, documentary photography, there's actually been a sort of we're all kind of stifled at the moment.
Thank you, Ronke. So Gerald, over to you. What's your perspective on this period from your perspective as a person and your work, and how have you been able to work over the last few months?
Okay, thank you. I agree with Ronke. They're not the best of times for any creative. First, it's something she said, which is very, very key. Art is therapeutic. I'll give you a simple example. I had a challenge, and it was so even life-threatening that I could only find solace when I went to watch movies. I'll just go sit down and spend 3 hours. So first of all, my mind is removed from this thing, and I watched 3 times and I was relieved. So for me, it's an experience. Now it's different from doing Netflix at home or something. Walking down to the cinema, sitting there, just running through the big screen, taking away the big problem, really. So yeah, it's therapeutic. And as an artist, the first 1 month, I couldn't do anything. Our world was in trouble. Our world was in trouble. And I'm sure every artist felt the same. I mean, some people talked about, oh yeah, you now have time as an artist because you live a solitary life. That 1 month, everybody, personally, and I'm sure that's how many, we didn't know where we were going to. Fear mixed with pain.
And uncertainty.
Uncertainty produced a lot of more fear. But will our art reflect what happened? Yes. It started already happening. People are beginning to, even I had some artists got commissioned to make a sculpture that looks like what we saw in the media about what COVID looked like, just to remember this time. Now, I wondered how they would feel making it, because I couldn't make it. They would feel pain while they made each stroke or each piece of the work. So the times I've been uncertain, yes, again, art, you feel art, you feel it. Art is alive, you feel it. And so without the exhibition spaces, you have taken away something very significant from the creative industry. Seeing it, you don't just look at the work, no, it captures you, it envelopes you, you interact with it. It's a spiritual thing. And that's how we're created. So did it affect art here? Another, and then of course, when you come to the angle of making money, which is a basic thing, a lot of artists are in some trouble. People are thinking about, holding on their cash, of course, what is going to happen tomorrow? It's shooting up inflation. And, but again, I noticed something that is positive in all this. Some people in Nigeria, because that's the context, they are beginning to store their value in artworks. But that's also a bit here and there. Why? Because they will only buy artists they think will become big tomorrow. So what happens to grow in this industry? So that's how it has affected us here and there. But I think there's a little positive there. People know that something's going to happen to the Naira, and it's happening. So where do I keep my money? And I tell you, a few artists, and I know a few, who have sold a bit more because of this period. So yeah, that's a gleam of light. Didn't touch everywhere, but that's beautiful.
Okay. So I was going to ask this question around mental health much later, because it was also one of the questions that just came in. But I'll ask it now. How, and people usually, if I think of creative people, I think of them as very emotional people. Maybe that's not the right word to use, but there's a lot that goes on in your mind to be able to express the creativity you do. I honestly think that if there are people that are closer to God, you guys are much more closer to God, because there's a level of, I think, spiritual connection that you guys have, that you're able to interpret and to bring to life what we can't even express, but you express it in a form that we're able to engage with it, and it relates and mirrors that. And from that also comes a place where you have to be in the mind frame and the space to be able to do that. So how have you both been able to cope and manage with just a positive mental health, or maybe not positive, but just even manage and your mental health at this point? And how would you advise other entrepreneurs who are also trying to manage that challenge? You may not have the answers, but maybe there's some tips that you may be able to share. Ronke, please, I'll start with you on that.
So to be perfectly honest, at first I wasn't really managing my mental health. Like Gerald said, that first month was horrible. I was on automatic pilot. I'd wake up, I'd work out, I'd have breakfast, then I would do some work. And by doing some work, sometimes that means just staring at my computer, just staring, hoping, just looking at my computer, trying to, form, as people would say, that you're forming busy. I didn't know what to do. I was truly lost. But then there were some moments of inspiration. Just, okay, you can't do X, Y, and Z, but why not just dream, start creating new projects? It might be next year, it might be 2 years from now. You don't know, someone might give you money for another project. So one thing I have to say is that I really challenged a lot of my frustration and sadness into work. So I've been coming up with a lot of ideas. Lord knows when I'm going to make them. Lord knows who is going to fund them. But at least I have at least 2 or 3 things that I would like to create, And other times when I haven't been, focusing on work, just talking to my friends. A lot of people are going through different things. So just because you're not a creative, even though we're really, really, really suffering, a friend of mine, she was called into a meeting via Zoom, and she was told that, 25% of her salary is gone, and in this climate, that's terrible. So there's a lot to commiserate. And just building and forming community. I will admit, at one point, I just stopped answering people. I stopped taking calls. It was a fairly selfish thing to do, but I was truly overwhelmed. I didn't know, I couldn't really answer. So what's going to happen to you? Because I truly didn't know. There's someone that I work with, there's someone that who relies on me for a salary, and I just didn't know how I was going to pay her, because there was a project I was so close to getting funded, a lot, with a huge budget. And as soon as COVID came up, radio silence. They were channeling. It was a foundation. They're channeling all their money into COVID, which is the right thing to do, but it sucks for me. I had plans and dreams, and I had lists of things that I wanted to do. So it was. I definitely wouldn't say I was depressed, but I was the closest thing to depressed as could be, and I was very lucky that, hey, at least I could still, keep the lights on, or at least, go and live with someone for some time who could keep the lights on, and, go and stay with my siblings, go and stay with my family for some time. And luckily, patience sort of turned things around, and we can talk about, you know, a recent development that's happened that's made me wake up in the morning and given me that drive. But it was difficult, and there were times I was able to cope talking to friends, you know, exercise and prayer and all those things. But there were times where I couldn't pick up the phone. I didn't want to talk to anybody, you know. I didn't want to say the same thing over and over. Wow, COVID, people are dying, the economy is tanking. Like I didn't want to negotiate with those things. And also, you know, thank God for streaming apps, Netflix, Showmax. Sometimes I would just put on a film or watch my favorite series, or, you know, listen to music. It was a combination of things. So that's my story.
So Gerald, Ronke talked about communities, you know, just being able to find those communities that can help and be supportive. Are there any communities that you would like to recommend, or what do you think has been available, if anything, for artists around this time? There was actually a question around what are the support networks what are the networks that are available to support artists at this time? That was one of the questions that we had. Are there any? If there are, what are they? You're laughing.
Wow. This period taught us a lot. It taught me a lot. First 1 month, like I said, look, was almost selfish for everyone. Just like Ronke said, including myself. I thought about it. How do I survive? Is it at the door? Is this at the door? How do I? So even I became a home doctor. I tried, you did everything. Talk about family only. Then it started to open up that, look, this is a wider society. But incidentally, I found out that when because you're talking about, mental stability, I found out that immediately I started to give more of myself to others, my mental state started to change. I became a bit more stable, and I wasn't too afraid again. And then it was as if, we are in all this together, we can also be part of it. So that gets to the point, the question of, is any support? No, I didn't see anyone. In fact, a group of us started to contact other artists and say, okay, are there any artists who they don't have food to eat? If I will shock you that as much as 5,000 naira, some families were so excited to get it. That brought tears to my eyes, because the thing came as a shock. And I had an exhibition in Berlin, already planned out.
Yes, you had talked about it.
And the people in Berlin said, look, we'll have that show. I'm thankful to them. I'm thankful to that gallery, because, at that point, I thought the world was going to shut down. They helped to say, look, we'll go on. And towards the end of the lockdown, we were able to send in a few pieces, but it wasn't just like before. But that, for me, therapy started to get better for me mentally when I started to think about other people. But by default, I thought about myself, my family for the first 1 month, nothing else. I couldn't look at anything. I couldn't do any work. I sat in the studio, like Ronke said, and all day, I'm sitting there doing nothing. First of all, the whole doors were shut. The windows couldn't be, you didn't even know what to fear. And that's the worst kind of fear, where you don't know what to fear. So, but I think the best thing that happened to me, I'm sure to many people, is when we started to remember other people too, started to share love. Then my mental state changed drastically. I became a bit more stable. I began to see hope at the end. For me, I think Nigerians are really good at hospitality. I must tell you that. People started to share things here and there. It started to change our mentality. And for me, that really, really helped. That was how I controlled my mental state. Yeah.
So a lot of the themes around your interview were around how that transition between the artistry parts and evolving the arts and the commercialization part, where there's the business angle and the side of it. And obviously what both of you have said, part of the challenge is that, yes, you still have that gift, this talent, you still have this skills, but you need to eat, you need to pay rent, you need to feed your families, you need to be able to do and sustain that. And that was such a constant theme in the interview, the pre-recorded interview that you had. I think there was even some quote that you said around, so when Ronke was asking around, how do you keep the artist pure? And how do you balance that from a commercial aspect? That if you try to keep the artist pure, you're going to kill the artist. So you need to bring the entrepreneurial thinking with that. So one of the questions that we had was that, how would you suggest, so Gerald, to you now, for an artist who is now in that point where they're trying to build and develop this gift and skills and selling their work, what are the advice? What's the advice, or what are the different tips or guidelines that you give that artist in transitioning to that entrepreneurial thinking? I mean, like we were saying, this time has sort of shown why that is important, but how can an aspiring artist or entrepreneur, I don't know how we'll call it now, make that transition? What are the things that artist, what are the things that he or she needs to do, and how can that person go about it?
Thank you, Adenike. Let me just say, there are 3 basic reasons why an artist is motivated. Motivation comes from 1, artistic excellence. That's what you want to showcase. 2, recognition. I want to be recognized all over the world. 3, monetary gains. These are the 3 basic things. All these things fall down to one thing: value. The more value is increased, the more the talent is monetized. Any of the motivation you want, it doesn't matter what. And guess what? If it's artistic excellence, okay, I don't want money, fantastic. When you die, because you're excellent, your work will start to make a lot of money. It all boils down to one thing: monetary gains. And because we always want to hide this thing, you find out that artists don't think about it. So I usually tell every artist I come across, I say, listen, as long as you do not increase in value, is just the same thing as taking my art serious. That's all. Monetizing my art is the same thing as taking my art serious. There's no difference. And so every young artist needs to think about it in that light. First of all, if your art has to grow to make more money, your value has to increase. And your value increases not only by what you throw out from your studio, it increases even from how you dress up. It increases from what you read, how you speak, even as vain as the car you drive. So what am I talking about? You can call it branding. No, that's not what it is. It is actually branding. Yeah. So consciously or unconsciously, you are being branded every day. So I tell every artist, listen, if you come out, it is your brand. People buy you, they don't buy your art. At some point, it is the signature that they are buying. That signature, it has value. It is the value that you grew. How do you grow your value? Okay, secondly, there's diversification and there's monetization. Diversification will also boil down to monetization at once. What else can I do as an artist? I keep hammering this thing because if an artist is creative, it means he's got an extra part of a brain working. There's something extra in his brain for him to sit down, conceptualize something that comes from the spirit and bring it to the physical. There's something else in his brain. So it means that if he's going to making cars, his cars will be the best cars. If he's going to be making planes, his planes will be the best. We only have been bridged by an invisible wall to think that you should only think about the canvas and the wood, or the paper, or other diverse, medium. So every artist should think not outside the box, outside the house, right outside. Because if I can turn a canvas to something really wonderful, I can turn the street light to something better. So what else can you do? And you can do, okay, if you come down to the internal diversification, you can do print, you can even teach, you can do workshop. This has opened up for us an avenue to teach online. You can do ebooks now. There are 2 artists that I like so much. 2 artists, Victor and Tizet Antwa. These 2 guys, they inspire me. Let me tell you how they inspire me.
How?
Victor is an author. And he's very stylish in it. I went to a bookstand one day. I didn't want to buy any book, but I saw his book. I bought it. Because he's an artist who writes, I had to buy the book. I didn't want to buy a book. An artist writing a book makes me smile. Then the third Tantua is an influencer. Just by the way he lives, you will value his work and also value art. And so if he starts a blog tomorrow, not just artists will jump on that blog, 1 million people will want to know. So we have to be a bit more creative because we are also creative people. Mm-hmm. And that will monetize us even more. It boils down to value. Value boils down to money. That's a simple thing.
Yeah. Yes. So, you know, as you were speaking, and this also came up during your interview, I think one of the things that we're seeing is that transition and intersection of the creative space across all sectors. One of the things so we have 8 episodes in this series. Half of them have creative focus in them. So even though we say your interview, for instance, was creatives, if you look at the person in the front space, the leather, there's serious expressions of creativity in that. Ronke, are there any disruptions and I don't like to use the word disruption because we use it loosely a lot now, but what are the exciting things that you're seeing within the creative space, even if it was like slightly pre-COVID and all of that, that is giving you like hope or excitement for just even the business side of this? So whether it's from the attitude of the market, from the attitude of even Nigerians, what are some of the things that you're seeing that should excite entrepreneurs within this space?
So there are a few things. There's a huge appetite for Black stories. And of course, we're Nigerian, so we're Black, right? Mm-hmm. What's going on in America, what's going on in the UK, the Black Lives Matters movement has definitely has and will create more opportunities for Black stories. Obviously, it will start with African Americans and Black British people, but there is some space for us. If you look at some of the streaming platforms, particularly Netflix and Showmax, they are licensing and a little bit of commissioning. The real money is commissioning. And that's what everybody wants. But licensing, they're buying documentaries, they're buying films. So that there is hope in that, and those are some of the things that not even young filmmakers, artists can be happy about. And one thing that I was really focused on was that, I really want to make a new project. Awani came out at the end of 2018. It's so stale. As a filmmaker, I really need to build a body of work. But if you've made a film, you've done the work. So what you can do now, if you're not able to, get the funds to make a new film, is that you can sell your work to other platforms. You can put up your work on YouTube. A lot of people are watching this right now on YouTube, and you can hopefully monetize. If you sort of look at things in a binary way, you'll get very upset, like I was, because I was so focused on, I want to make a new film, I have to make a new film, but hey, I still have Awani, and there's still people interested, in supporting it and getting it to new audiences. So you have to, yes, there are opportunities with the streaming apps and making sure you're talking to the right people, Showmax, and I believe DSTV, that they also buy content. Again, I think they could pay a bit more. What they pay for content right now is a little disheartening, but but still, those are we all need the income and the resources. But if you do have some work, there are ways to monetize it, because you've already done the hard work of making it. You then find whether it's NGOs or organizations or streaming platforms that are willing to buy it. So there are opportunities. You just sort of have to try and think clearly and create those avenues yourself, or talk to people who are more established that can help you.
So on that part now, if you think, one of the things you said was that musicians and then the entertainment filmmakers in the creative space are the ones that have been able to do a lot of the commercialization. And part of that is also because they've looked, well, first of all, it's a bit easier for people to pay for their products and things that they do, and it's much more mainstream, so to speak. But one of the other things that I think you can find is that they get, most artists, or every artist has a business manager, has somebody that says, do you understand, you build the creative work, we will take it as a business. So do you think that it's also important for artists, for people who do much more, I don't want to say more serious work, but like less mainstream work, so to get business managers who also help you to, like you said, explore the different platforms that are available, explore ways to get your works in front of the right audiences, because there are audiences that want to see this, want to pay for it, appreciate the value that Gerald has talked about, and really would like to even invest in it in a lot of ways. So is that an opportunity? Is that something that you think artists should also, as they go up, just say, okay, I just need somebody that helps me think, or takes me on, or takes my work on from a business perspective, so that I can focus on more of producing and developing this product? Any of you can answer that, yes.
Oh, okay. I think that is obviously the ideal. You know, everybody wants, you know, in the film world, you want an agent, you know, you send them a script and then they sell it, you know, with an artist, same thing. That's you know, a business manager, or, you know, to be an agent for a musician. But that has to happen. I don't want to say organically, because that sounds a little spoiled, but it has to happen organically, because you want someone that understands your vision, you know? Of course, you want someone that challenges you, because nobody knows everything, you know? I can be a little, I don't want to say controlling, but like, Awani is my baby. Like, you know, you can't just, you know, put it here, there, anywhere. I'm a little bit sensitive when it comes to Awani, and I think I would benefit from someone that says, okay, Ronke, you know, we need to get it out there, we need to move it. However, you also want someone that understands what you're trying to do, you know, and understands the trajectory you're going for. So it's a delicate balance. And also, unfortunately, in this industry, there are no, you know, it's not like banking where you have the CBN, or, you know, different industries where it's monitored. Like, there are people that will take advantage of you. There are people who promise heaven and earth, and then all of a sudden you don't hear from them. So you have to be careful, because it's really hard to screen people. So you want someone that understands you. You want someone that's going to challenge you, because, you know, I definitely need challenging here and there. But you also want someone that's honest and that's experienced, you know, and those are really, it's almost impossible to find. Even in the music industry, you find that, you know, maybe, and I'm making this up, you know, Burna Boy, you know, he fires his manager, he gets a new manager. It's really hard. It's quite a volatile relationship, getting someone to manage you, because you're managing a personality, and to be honest, you're managing someone's ego. But yes, you know, to sort of summarize, yes, you want someone that can help you, but it can be quite difficult finding that right balance. I don't know what Gerald thinks.
Yeah, Gerald is smiling. So Gerald, please, I'd like to. You've been laughing.
No, I've really been laughing, because it's the wrong way. She just said it right. I mean, because she touched a chord that, you know, has affected me many times. I like to use the Nigerian scene, because that's where we all are.
Yes.
First, it is important to get a business manager, who we call galleries in my case.
Yes.
You should get a business manager, because you have to view your art and the process as business, will you like it or not. Now, if you can't handle it, that's a good thing too. There should be somebody to manage it. But to get that right balance that she's talking about, that's where the problem lies. It is not even that sometimes you get burnt, but it is also the fact that the people who are the managers cannot give you what will sustain you, because now it boils down to, are you not going to eat?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give a simple example. The gallery says, I want to manage you, Gerald. I don't want you to give any other person your work. Well, exclusive right. I say, no problem, thank you. Then I give you 5 pieces. And then you tell me, okay, I sold one, and then another 3 months, I sold another one. What happens to me the other 2 months? Now, so the galleries and those who manage artists don't go a step further, which is supposed to be the case, like in the music industry, to say, okay, we sustain you every month while we have exclusive rights. Now, that pertains in some places in the world, and only also for the artists who you can't do without at that point, the ones who are now big. So for the young upcoming artists, you have to prove that point before A gallery will say, I will hold on to you. I'll pay you every month, even if you don't sell. I will maintain you. I'll get you materials and all that and all that. That's the real thing. All the grammar around it is the paraphernalia. That doesn't work. The artist is also a citizen who goes to the same market, who enters the same bus, who uses the same fuel. There's no difference. For you to now say, we don't do it like that. It is not rice and beans, so we shouldn't sell it like that. Okay, so what do we do? I will maintain you for a year, make only 3 works so that we can sell it for $15 million. I'll be glad to do that. Yeah. Is it the real thing? No. It's not happening like that. And so the gallery won't want you to show with another gallery so that you can diversify a bit, but the gallery is not willing to sustain you and maintain you while they sell. Exactly. So that tilt is what I'm always trying to deal with every time I meet a gallery, and I say, that's where it is.
So is that, just a quick one, is that a function also of the size of the market? Because if you had like a market that was also paying for, so frequently also demanding to the size that they want because also the gallery probably can only pay the kind of revenue that they have. So does that also have to do with the size of the market? And do we think that the market is also evolving? Because I know one of the things, and it will be interesting to see how November is this year, because November, I know October, November is usually like an artist period, and it'll be such a shame to not be able to do that. I'm sure they'll try to do some things digitally, but it's still not the same thing. And one of the things that platforms like Artex and so many others is that it's provided more it's opened people's palettes, one of the things that I think Ronke mentioned was before art was like an elitist thing, it was only rich people that had access to this and all of that. But now any of us can buy different form of art, even if you earn something, I can start to appreciate it and all of that. So what are the things that you think also needs to change also from a consumer's perspective that also expands that market? So that more people are also paying for and buying out. Obviously, also the economy needs to get better so that because you have to eat first before.
Agreed. No, the economy is a major factor. I completely agree that the market determines how much the galleries can also do. But I always like to use simple examples. When I talk with artists, I give them simple examples. I say, imagine that you're an artist. We live in Lagos. Where do you live? I say, okay, I live in Yaba. I say, the gallery, where is the gallery? He tells me in Ikoyi. I say, how much is your rent? He say, I'm paying 2 million. I say, how much is the gallery? They're paying 10 million. If they're paying it every year, the market is not determining how much they pay. Why are they paying it? Ladies and gentlemen, let us think about this just in a good way. If there's the business side that the artists, they are not looking at. It used to happen in the music industry when they sign on artists and they tell them there's no money until they got wiser. And now you see that, and immediately the artists started to know their value, the industry changed, and it changed for the better, not just for the artist, for the producer, for the backup, for everyone. So yes, the market determines, but we are sure it is not just the market that is making this happen. Yes, the galleries are not also. If I have faith in your work, I should be able to support it much more than when somebody buys, I pay you. It's a simple thing. I think we should just change our perspective. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have 2 questions from YouTube. One, and they're actually similar questions from Grobido's Ventures and from Motunioke. So they have to do with how do you improve your creativity skills. So one of them is a cake artist and who sometimes finds it difficult to come up with ideas for their work. Again, this is where we see art also influencing food design, influencing clothes, influencing different things. So any tips on how to overcome those mental blocks or creative blocks? And Motunde also asked the same thing. How do you break through mental blocks and consistently win inner creativity battles? So I'll ask both of you the same thing. Ronke, I'll start with you.
So in terms of, the cake artists, I think one thing that COVID really encouraged was self-education. Harvard and so many universities. There's so many online courses. There's so many resources online where you can sort of research art from the past, like different eras or different creative eras. And then also YouTube is a fantastic resource. I mean, we're on YouTube right now, but there's so many food channels on YouTube, and I'm sure there's one on decorating cakes. And I also feel that with inspiration, your inspiration doesn't have to stem from other people who decorate cakes. It could be from Renaissance art. It could be from a historic era or something. It could be music. Inspiration is really broad, so don't necessarily limit yourself. And overcoming mental blocks. Unfortunately, if you want to be a professional creative, and this is me talking to myself, there's this sort of notion that, it's when the spirit moves you. Unfortunately, if you want to make a living from this, you have to really discipline yourself, because your bills come every day, every week, every month. So it can't be when the inspiration moves you. Sometimes you need to just, with filmmaking, you have to write out a concept and continually develop it, right? So there's always something to do. There's always some admin. There's always some grant proposal I'm writing, the most boring thing ever, but I have to do it. It's discipline, and those stumbling blocks, like, you have to overcome. And if you're having a day struggling with writing a story or coming up with a concept, then do admin. You don't need to be inspired to do admin or do an Excel sheet or write a grant proposal. So you have to balance it. And I really, especially with COVID, I was like, I'm so uninspired, but I have to make this. I have no other background. I don't have a law degree. I can't go into medicine. I have to make this work, right? So the times I couldn't create, I was doing more admin focused things. So it's making sure you're not idle and making sure the activities you're doing, they're going to progress your career. So it's not fun, unfortunately, I don't have any secrets to it. Maybe meditation, maybe trying to do other things, but you really, it's discipline, and I'm struggling with it, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and the less you're relying on inspiration.
Thank you, Ronke. So Gerald, how do you overcome your creativity block? If they do have
Yeah, well, we do have, everybody's got a block one time or the other. And I agree with Ronke here, because that's what you do. You keep working, and then you can't say there's a block. Like she said, your bills come every day. I love this because it's talking about entrepreneurship. For an artist, you just need to keep working. But you keep working is experimental. Then those experiments require that you spend the materials you cannot afford. That's why entrepreneurship is important. Because at this point, when you have a block, the only thing that can take you a step further is if you continue to work. Now, that means you're going to be making a lot of mistakes. Again, you have to stop being afraid of making mistakes. That's the only way an entrepreneur grows. So you need to, but that also boils down to, that means I have to do more experiments. I need to work a bit more. I'll just use my own case for an example. What I did when I started was I used to go buy very old magazines. When you go to where they sell them, you find out that they are next to nothing in price. They want to give them away.
Yes.
So what I did was I couldn't afford, at that point I couldn't afford the internet. It was very expensive for internet. So I buy very old magazines, because first your research comes from what you see as an artist. So I buy old magazines and I look through them. Every second I'm looking. Because what's happening is that you're strengthening your creative muscle when you see a lot. So that's what I kept doing. Some things I'm doing now, I saw an idea 10 years ago, and it stayed in my mind. So you need to continually exercise your creative muscles, and it only happens for an artist basically by what you see. That's the first thing, by what you see. You are influenced by what you see. That's what you plant to be in your mind. So you need to find a way to see a lot.
Yeah. So again, there's a quote that Gerald had during your interview. He said, "You don't stop eating just because you are dancing." And it was around this conversation. I would like to get if I wish I understood Igbo, I'd have asked you to translate it in Igbo, because I think that the effect would have even been stronger. A second to the last question as we're rounding up. So there's a question also that had come before around parenting. So we had one or two people who have children who express certain creative talents. And in this particular case, it was a child that likes to draw, and the mother could see that the child could draw very well. How do you nurture, Gerald, how would you advise the parents or parents who think that they have children who have artistic expressions? How can one nurture that and enable and support the child?
Yes, I like to say that you should nurture that child for two reasons. One, this child can now continue to be an artist, because you talked about drawing, but more so, the child's creative ability increases. And in the marketplace today, creativity is key, even in the banking industry. And so if you encourage that child to grow her or his creative ability, you are making the child valuable. And so, first of all, don't streamline your mind thinking, okay, are you saying this? No, you are growing something inside that when it gets to any industry, is faster and sharper in his top line because he's creative upstairs. So that's what I would say, because our parents didn't know that, thought it was about art, which is beautiful too. That's why I'm here today.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that creativity actually permeates everything that we do in everyday life. One of the things, again, that I love about people like yourselves is that both you are able to see issues and now either express those issues or even express solutions to those issues. And so whether it's from a you guys will make statements that people would not make. And, and if you look at people that have been dissidents or people that have high issues in history or whatever, they're people that have a creative, whether they're writing books or they're painting or they're drawing or they're making films with that, is that they're able to express that desire. And I think every one of us to some extent is creative. Definitely some people are more creative than the others, and some more expressive in their creative than others. So what's next for you, Ronke? What I know you spoke about it a bit. Would you like to share?
Well, this is my first public announcement. Lots of thanks to you and Fate Foundation, but I recently received a grant from the Africa Women Development Foundation to take Awani to students. Now, obviously, it was meant to be a physical, going from campus to campus, but it's digital now. So I'm going to be working on that for the next sort of 2 months. And I'm really looking forward to engaging with young people, because Awani's gone to quite a few places, but it hasn't reached the ideal target market for me. So that's something that, one, will pay the bills, but also to give me a lot of fulfillment. So that's the next project that I'm currently working on.
Yeah, congratulations. And it's interesting that you say digital now, because you probably would showcase it to more people than if you did it physically. More people around the country, actually, than if you do. So congratulations, and we look forward to hearing more about that. So Gerald, what next for you? Any new projects?
Oh, I'm always working. Congratulations. We have to drink to that. And of course, she had a grant. Okay, because it's a creative grant here.
As long as you share your own grant too, so it's fine.
Yes, I mean, we have few of those grants, so anyone that gets grants should share it. Anyway, I'm getting ready for Contemporary 154. Yes, of course, we don't know if it's going to, we are hoping it to be shown live, but I doubt that. 154 in May was also digital. I wasn't there, but the Contemporary 154 for the London is what's coming up. I'm getting ready for it. If it's digital, that's where we find ourselves now. But I mean, the coming together will be missed a lot. I mean, it's a festival, so we should come together and meet. So that's what I'm working on now. And of course, I have this solo for next year, and I'm also getting ready for that now.
Fantastic.
Sorry, well, I just want to add that contemporary 154 is not just, he's making it sound like, oh, it's some random thing. It's one of the biggest African art. Just to interject. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, Gerald. We're so excited, and I really would I would like to hear more about that. And again, that's again with the thing about digital. You get places that would have had to visit in person will be able to experience your art and your work even with the internet and all of that. Thank you so much. It's been I said that your interview, it was so enlightening. I'm always jealous of creatives like you. You know, I really am. I'm very envious, if I should say that, because I like I said, I feel that you guys are literally next to God with that. But thank you for sharing your gifts with us, and thank you for using your gifts to tell stories, to give us insights, to give us more perspective, to make us ask more questions, to make us engage with each other. And despite the challenges of the last few months, we're happy to see you both doing well and also working on new things. And we really wish you all the best, and we will continue to follow up on your progress and everything you do. So thank you. Thank you very much to everybody who is watching this live and who participated in this live Q&A. As with the previous 4 interviews and episodes we've had, both the interviews are on, the interview rather is on YouTube, on Facebook, and on all podcasts. For some reason, Facebook actually does really, really well. It's been so interesting watching the way people view these things. And this live Q&A is also here, and a lot of people usually listen to it over again over the weekend. So thank you to everyone once again. We'll be back next week, Friday, with another live Q&A right after we launch and premiere the 6th episode. We wish you all very well. We wish you all safety. We wish you all good health, and we wish you a good weekend. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you, Ronke. Thank you, Elo, Ahmed, and the rest of the Faith Foundation team that has made this possible. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks
Bye.
for having me. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.